So apparently I wrote a script for this and just never followed up on it for whatever reason, but since I have my shit set up, I might as well do this one. Transformers Generations, Thrilling 30 Nightbeat with Beelzeboss Untraceable Pieces Upgrade Kit. Another mouthful title, damn it. As always, I feel obliged to do a quick history lesson with any given Transformer I review, since it beats going on at any length about a box. Especially when I don't have one to talk about. Nightbeat first appeared in the Transformers franchise in 1988 as part of the more simplified range of Headmaster figures. Given this was the period after the end of the American cartoon, he never made any impact on the screen, but did enjoy a stint in the comic books, especially in the UK under the writing chops of Simon Furman. Characterized as something of a Cybertronian Sherlock Holmes, he would become something of a comic book-only superstar who would show up in almost every new major comic reboot with a mystery or 10 to solve along the way. In 2014, he made a comeback in action figure form as part of the 30th anniversary celebration of the franchise, and to coincide with the then-present comic event Dark Cybertron, an issue of said comic was packaged with the figure itself, though confusingly the illustrated design of the figure on the cover was not quite the same as the actual figure, as Nightbeat is a recolor and retool of Thrilling 30 Bumblebee rather than Special Ops Jazz. Starting from vehicle mode this time around, Nightbeat is a sky blue and yellow muscle car of some ilk. According to the wiki, it's a vague approximation of a 5th gen Ford Mustang, which I can only take their word for, as I'm not a car guy. We've been over this. That aside, as a vehicle, it looks swish enough, but the devil is in the details, and someone really half-assed the paint portion of which. While all the places that could be picked out with paint certainly are, with really nicely done flame decals on either door and the presence of silver-painted wheel rims, the inconsistent and mostly thin application of yellow and red around the back sides ends up hurting all those good points. Couple that with the nigh invisible metallic light blue for the rear windscreen and you get a vehicle color layout that feels like the least amount of effort was put into it. Functionality is somewhat sketchy as well, as elements on the bottom of the vehicle make its ability to roll freely on its wheels not practically possible. Converting everything to robot mode is where things get a bit mushy, as while everything has a clear place going from one form to the next, the process itself lacks many, if any, locking points. And the robot mode is okay, I guess, but once again, it is pretty damn weak. Credit where it's due, the design isn't bad for a Bumblebee figure, though considering this is the first figure to utilize these specific design elements that would become more common on Bumblebee after this point, and the fact that it's not super original in that regard either, As Nightbeat though, I'm just not feeling it beyond the head, which is, again, an okay design element, but as with the rest of the figure, the colors are just so weak. Thankfully, a bit of third-party magic is on hand to give the design more pop. This here is a Nightbeat equipped with the Untraceable Pieces from Beelzeboss, which includes a new noggin and torso parts to give him more distinction as the character Nightbeat, and much more and better yellow to make him pop a lot better. Since I got this used though, I am missing a couple of things, such as the briefcase that came with the same set, and an alternate head with a slightly different expression. Can't be too upset about it though, as this set is now basically impossible to get a hold of. So I'm lucky to have obtained even this much. To add further distinction from the base design, it is prescribed to fold the door panels up as such, which is okay in its own way, but I prefer to leave the doors simply hanging down to look vaguely like coattails. Or as a reference to his partner in the Marvel comics, Siren. As an older deluxe, it should be noted that Nightbeat isn't quite up to snuff with modern figures, though not to significant degrees. He does have bicep rotation, but it is stiff and rather restricted by this bit of molding at the elbow joint, and without much sideways tilt, the ankles aren't the greatest either. By default, the accessory count is pretty minimal, with his only weapons being the same Stinger Blaster things that came with the Bumblebee version of the mold. Each has a moving 5mm peg that can plug into the hands or other ports as such, or be combined into a big single blaster. Aside from the missing parts mentioned before, the upgrade kit comes with a single 5mm compatible handgun, which also happens to be Blush-Bit compatible. Quite frankly, as simple as it is, I vastly prefer the handgun, The silly stinger weapon and everything it encompasses, it just doesn't suit a thoughtful detective like Nightbeat. And I think that kind of puts my thoughts on this Nightbeat in perspective, because as much as I like this figure, especially now that I have the upgrade kit, it doesn't especially suit him. Ultimately, the base figure I can't recommend regardless, because beyond the age of the base mold, the big issue is simply that the retooling process doesn't do Nightbeat many favors. The colors and head sculpt all come across so weak that everything about its existence feels completely obligatory. Like they had to pump out some kind of retool from the Bumblebee mold, and this was all they could be bothered to poop out. With the upgrade kit, it certainly takes things to a much better level, but the big issue still remains that you're only strengthening a very weak figure by doing so. Furthermore, this particular upgrade set is nigh impossible to get a hold of anymore, and if you're a big stickler for such things, he lacks Headmaster compatibility. Invariably, I like this set, but then I'd better, considering that I dropped a good chunk of spending money on it. But I can't outright recommend it to others. This has been a Devasia Mentality review. As always, thank you absolutely everyone for watching, and there will be links in the description to my various social media outlets, as well as to my coffee page if you care to follow up on that. Devasia Mentality out!